The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, is the office that handles the dissemination of the Philippine President's official communications. Today, I bring you the Senior Community Manager of PCOO. She manages some campaigns initiated by the executive branch. Get to know more about Angela Abella, how she does her job, what it's like to have an exciting role like hers, and how she handles her responsibilities. Today with me is a Senior Community Manager for the Presidential Communications Operations Office. And I'm with Miss Angela Abella.
Hi.
Thank you so much for accepting this interview. By the way, my name is Melissa, but we're curious. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do as a Senior Community Manager for the Presidential Communications Operations Office? Quite long, right?
I know, right? So we call it, for shorthand, PCOO. So as a Senior Community Manager, when I'm not in the, when I'm in the office first, when I'm in the office, basically what I do is actually, when we have a team, they delve more on the creative multimedia. So when I'm there and we have projects to deliver or videos to produce, infographics to produce, I check up on the team. When it comes to that, when I'm in the office, I become the internal community manager. So I check the team and say, how are we doing with your deliverables? Are we on time? I help our director as well. If there are projects coming in, we actually list it out and say if these are doable, who do we delegate it to? When I'm outside the office, then I become an external community manager. I'm given the opportunity to actually talk with different departments, with their information officers, sometimes with their secretaries, depending on what policy or what programs we have to communicate. So that's actually I become a public relations officer. But to make it sound more softer and warmer, it becomes a community manager, because you manage the community basically of the executive branch on how you communicate the programs that they want to communicate to the public. So yeah, all in a day's work actually. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. How does it feel like to be, you are the Senior Community Manager of the executive office?
Yeah. Now for the communications office, it's a toss between being not necessarily overwhelmed, but the idea that you are helping to communicate the good news to the people. I'm telling some information officers or some officials to actually not necessarily coach, but actually tell them or help them create a plan or create a communications plan on how to reach out to people, communicate their policies, their programs. So it's overwhelming in a way, in a good way, wherein you're helping out, trying to give them a gateway to the public and say, this is the way we communicate your program, sir, or this is how we can reach out to people. Sometimes we go to, it also depends if we go grassroots, if we go radio or TV. It's actually exciting to be able to do that, and actually for the country. So it's actually a very fulfilling job. Not without its challenges, but of course, but at the end of the day, when you get it straight, you get it right, you execute the plan, it really is fulfilling.
I can sense that you're really enjoying your work.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, like, for example, you've encountered challenges, because you mentioned that.
Right.
So how do you handle those?
I've had a specific boo-boo where accidentally I was able to tweet something that wasn't supposed to be tweeted. That not that it wasn't wholesome or anything. It was just an accidental tweet of a random set of letters, and some media people picked it up. So on certain circumstances like that, and so I had to be named as well. It was a week wherein our secretary really had a difficult time because there were a lot of news going his way that they had to resolve, and I didn't want to be an additional person to that to his set of problems that week. So I kind of had to be named, and he was really like he was really nice enough to tell me, don't do that anymore, be careful, be careful when tweeting something. So the way I did it, like, it's a crisis comms in a way, right? So I had to deactivate what I had to deactivate. I had to relinquish some responsibilities just so it won't be tied. The accountability anymore won't be. I accounted for it, but I had to separate myself from it as well. But in the same manner, I had to be positive about it.
I thought I did it.
Yeah, I did it. Like, I took response. I actually still don't know if I was the one who did it, but I took it anyway.
You're very brave.
So it's all good. So yeah, so I might as well do it. It's okay. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're very brave, but I think for some people, like for people who are managing social media pages, they're kind of afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Because
exactly,
if they admit it, it's like, okay, I might lose my job.
Right. And this is where I'm very grateful for our secretary for still seeing through that, and because it was such a, for me, it was a minor thing. Although I was quite ready, like if I was gonna be kicked out, but
then
he did not. It
totally
was
understood you.
Yeah, but my work was more than that. It was more than social media posting. It's like, if I can say, being a senior community manager, it's a jack of all trades. It's you do PR. Sometimes, yes, you have to do social media as well, but you have to talk to people. You have to be a cheerleader for your team. So it's a whole cavalcade of functions. But so it was not just my job. So I was happy that he was able to see it through.
I'm curious. Do you have a direct kind of communication with President Duterte?
No, not really. So it's really more of my boss is really the secretary. I don't directly talk to the president, but whenever he has programs that he would like to have a strategic communications plan for that program, to be created for that program. Then I step in, and then we see how each agency will work best for this communications plan. So that's how as much the level of closeness and that degree, that's how close it is based on the program. So I don't really directly.
But you still report to him.
More of the secretary.
Okay.
More of the secretary.
Because there's a buyer here. You have to tell me what you want to tell him, something like that. Or do you have plans?
My boss is really Secretary Andanar. So it's he has his cabinet secretaries. So one of them is Secretary Andanar, and then whatever he instructs the guy, then he cascades it to us. So the major misconception we get is that we almost always have to counter everything that's thrown our way, every criticism or critique, and that's not what we do exactly. We have the official, presidential spokesperson for that. What we do more, the description for PCOO is actually the communications arm of the executive branch. So that's what we actually do. So we have the mechanisms. We have the basically we have the agencies for that. We have the People's Television Network, we have the PBS, we have they have the Radyo Pilipinas for AM, and then they have FM1 for FM. So we also have press releases and news articles online. So we have these mechanisms, these ways in order for these projects, for these programs and activities to be cascaded to the general public. So that's what we do. And then, for example, there's an executive order. Let's say a task force has to be created, and a strategic plan has to be created for this task force. So that's where we step in. And for me specifically, I sit there as a community manager, and whatever is amiss during these meetings, I throw my ideas in. And if something is amiss with the process flow, or the way they delegated some of the activities or whatnot, then that's the time I chime in and say, hey, I think we're missing this, we have to do this, but all in the context of strategic communication. So that's where I come in. But so it's more really on communicating the good news, the projects, not necessarily and not all the time that we have to counter everything that's put our way, because that will be very taxing. That's not, I mean, it's so easy to put out something that's not correct, that's not true. That's very easy. So I mean, rather than delving on that and indulging that, we will communicate what we have been doing so far. So yeah.
But do you still listen on social media? Do you have like a monitoring school where?
Yeah, we have there is a different office for that. It's still under the office of the Secretary Media, but under social media. So they do that. They monitor social media, the sentiments. Of course, we have to pick that up. But we apply this. We don't necessarily counter it, but whatever the sentiments of the people, we pick it up and see how we can use them to communicate again the programs or the policies of the president. So yeah.
What would you say? How important is PR in your line of work?
Absolutely.
And knowledge in PR in general.
Right. So actually, when you remove the name of community manager, it really becomes, at the end of the day, a public relations thing. So you really have to talk to secretaries, to undersecretaries, to all officials, to some of the officials. And sometimes there are departments that need constant updates, that will need to constantly update the general public, or some target audience, and we would come in, and actually we will have to talk to him and basically tell him, sir, this is how we'll communicate it. Some sort of a publicist in a way. So we actually help them. If, like, again, I was talking to you about building task forces and having these groups wherein committees, wherein we have to talk to people and say, this is what we need to do, and this is how we can communicate these policies and whatnot. So yeah, other than that, okay naman kami so far. So yeah.
One last thing. I'm curious, how are you able to land the senior community manager?
Well, I've had a friend who is now the assistant secretary of PCOO. So his name is Ramon Coloping, who is now the chief brand integrator of the office. So one day he called and said, actually it was funny enough, because he called and said, do you want to be if you want to be my executive assistant? And I said, at the middle of the night, I was in Cebu, I was sleeping, I had my work then, and I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And then 10 minutes after, I was like, what's there to think about? And I said, like, yes, I'm gonna fly there next week. So that's how I landed the job. But But after that, it wasn't really an executive assistant position. It was so he gave me the senior community manager position. So we are now handling different offices. So he's handling the office of brand integration, and ours is more of the office of the secretary media. So any projects that come in our way, we handle it, mostly videos and infographics. So that's how I basically landed the job.
Would you say that the social media really had an impact?
So yeah, so I'll just clarify, I didn't work for his campaign. I didn't actively work for his campaign. But being in social media, of course, I was like really gunning for the guy and mentioning that, you know, he should be the president and all. It was such a huge factor, social media, and we absolutely recognize this, that one if not the major and the key factor for President Duterte, for him winning the presidency, was because of social media. It was not just a lone person either that did the campaign. It was really a group effort, like, and it was not even like, how do you say that? It wasn't even an effort wherein it was planned by one group. Like, another group had their own campaign, own kind of plan, and then the other one had their different kind of plan. So, but it all came together, and somehow it did make the guy win. So it was a big factor. Social media was a big factor. So yeah.
Thank you so much for answering all my questions.